Good evening, I'm Adventure Argonaut. This is the golden news, the news from the past week. I'm streaming earlier today than normal because simply I had the opportunity. Usually I have to be at work or something else at this time, but not today. This, the thing we say to death, not today. So I can stream earlier, which is very nice. And even the streams are all very looking very functional, which is even better. So we can get to the news in just a few seconds. Maybe a few seconds is an exaggeration, but shouldn't take too long. Okay, let's just slide this into place here, I guess. All right, that's everything set up. So let's go to the news. So the first news is that uh, Rand Paul subpoenas Fauci. I think this has happened before, but I supposedly it's a different deal now that because Fauci is no longer in office, and he was pardoned by Biden for all his totally non-existent crimes because the reason he was pardoned because he was innocent of everything, but now he's, I guess, if he lies to the Congress or whatever, he might be, might have to go to jail. But let's see what it says here. So breaking: Senator Rand Paul is preparing to subpoena. Wait, I'm just scrolling some stuff. Okay, Rand Paul is preparing to subpoena Dr. Fauci to testify about his role in COVID-19. Since Fauci accepted a pardon from Biden, he is not allowed to plead the fifth in this instance. And if he lies under oath, he can be arrested for perjury. Fauci is sweating tonight. Okay, if this guy Nick Sorter, what he's saying is accurate, I don't know about the legalities of the pardon. That does it mean he's not allowed to plead the fifth? So if this is true, this is great. And does it actually mean it was for the chess patriots in control? Like that's why Fauci was pardoned, so he later have to testify and tell the truth. I don't know, but I just hope this is true what this guy is saying. But I'm very cautiously optimistic. And on well, let's see. Do I have anything else to say about Fauci? Well, yeah, Fauci and everybody else who is responsible for the various crimes against humanity perpetrated during the so-called pandemic, they should be brought to justice and, of course, looked into the actual effects of the jabby jab, whether they were, good, bad, or neutral, because the fact remains that despite the speed of science, we didn't know beforehand. People took them whether they would be, dangerous, whether they would have, bad side effects and stuff. Because normally, for vaccines, the testing period is at least 5 years, usually even more. But they were, sent out in less than a year, like because already in late 2020 the first vaccines were in the market. And of course there's all these deals between various governments and stuff that basically they have no like Pfizer and Moderna and these companies, they have no, you cannot basically sue them for whatever stuff. Like, why would the governments even sign these treaties? Like, what's going on? We should really look into it. Like, even though I understand many people don't want to think about that era of their lives, but unless we do something about it, like punish the perpetrators and learn what actually happened, it's likely to be repeated. Maybe in 5 years, maybe 15, maybe 50, but it's going to be repeated unless we learn about something about it or from it, as people. Because no doubt the both the corporations and the governments, they want to use similar methods to further their agendas. But anyways, and then here it says RFK Jr. wants every American to have a wearable health tracker. And yeah, this video is not really working for some reason. Like, I think it worked on another browser, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's not like, but yeah, it's like he's talking about some health tracker, and he says like everybody should wear it. Like, and this guy was supposed to be against the establishment, but that sounds very Orwellian and dystopian if everybody has some sort of tracker on them, because this is one of the same excuses as during the COVID era, that oh yeah, you have to submit to these Orwellian measures because it's for the good of your health and the good of everybody else's health. But anyways, let's move on. So what's the next story? There's a bunch of European nonsense news. So I have news from few different European countries. So first, let's go to UK and the tyrannical state of the UK. Speaking of health, I had to do some coughing again. I am slowly getting better. I've been coughing last few weeks, but anyways, I, I guess by next week I'm either dead or healed. Um, so yeah, YouTube pianist arrested after making child abuse allegations against priest. Uh-huh. Well, it is possible the allegations are false, but at least hopefully the police would investigate it. But and anyway, so yeah, more footage from our arrest. 6 police turned up to arrest us for social media crimes. Here they searched my van before searching our house. Yeah, UK is really a horrible hellhole. Like, I live in Hong Kong, and I feel lucky that, Hong Kong is no longer, part of the British Empire, which is sad that, China is like the preferable option right now. Yeah, let's see what's this. And Germany's Greens push for interior ministers meeting on banning the AfD, the Alternative für Deutschland, the largest opposition party in the country. And earlier today, Germany's socialist SPD party unanimously decided to prepare the process for banning the AfD. Yeah, this is, democracy. Well, at least they're not speaking German. Oh, wait, they still are, unfortunately, according to some. But yeah, this is, that's what they've been talking about for, a couple of years at least, that they're going to ban AfD. So I don't know if they're really going to do it, or this is like sort of playing into the false notion that the AfD is like a true alternative, that, a real proper opposition that might actually do something to rectify the situation in Germany. And because I have my doubts, like certainly it would be a step to to a better direction if AfD was to win in Germany. But like, and yeah, even like I remember Elon Musk a few months ago, he was, maybe it was 6 months ago, I don't remember anymore, but he was promoting AfD and stuff. So it's not, let's say it's not radical enough. And radical just means going to the root of the problem. Radical doesn't mean that you necessarily have to start blowing things up. Radical just means, look at the root of the problem. What causes the problem, instead of, looking at the superficial symptoms. Anyways, and yeah, this is one of the things that should be rectified in Germany. Several underage girls sexually abused by Syrian men at an outdoor pool in Gelhausen, Germany. 4 were arrested and 1 fled the scene. And so yeah, here is Hitler asks, did they arrest the underage girls or the rapists? Yeah, that's a dark humor, but I think that the question is very appropriate. Like, maybe some of the girls screamed or something and making the rapists feel uncomfortable. So yeah, then the police might arrest them actually. And also in Germany, German police today raided. So today is 26, almost a week ago. German police raided the homes of 170 individuals accused of spreading hate online or insulting politicians. So yeah, they crack down on the people who are unhappy with the situation, this sort of situation. But well, okay, it says four were arrested, but it's not like they can do any, they won't do anything to, you know, prevent this stuff from happening in the first place. Like there was that one instance, was it last year, when there was like a local German guy and an immigrant fighting, and then the police started to arrest the of course the local German, and then the immigrant started stabbing the police or something like that, and it's like that's just how it goes. And Hungary is some better news for once. Hungary's Prime Minister Orban says anyone who participates in LGBT Pride March will face legal consequences. Like normally I might say it's a bit excessive, but like seeing the alternative, maybe this is the right way to start to rectify the situation of these subversive intersectional Marxist agitators. And then to Greece, Thanos Plevris, the right wing politician who has advocated for racial purity, called for shooting migrants and urged denying them food, water, and basic necessities, has been appointed Greece's Minister of Immigration Asylum. It sounds like good news. Like this is the first time, and of course, these people are pointing out his name is Thanos. But anyways, the first time I've heard about this guy, so I don't know really anything outside of these descriptions of him. But like it's also a step in the right direction. Not saying his approach would be the best one, but like instead of welcoming these migrants who commit crimes and eat up your welfare and everything, at least you should treat them as a hostile invasion force, which they are. But of course, it's not just the immigrants; it's also the, let's say, the political and financial elite in Western countries that are, the true culprit. But I guess we can talk about that later. Was this the last one? Yes. All right. Let's go to the next story then. So from Europe, we go to New York. So Muslim Kami might become the mayor of New York, the next mayor. So of course Zohran Mamdani, it's like Dani the mom. So Nick Fuentes says progressive. Everybody's been talking about this guy for past few days or who, however long. A progressive Democrat won a primary race in New York City. Who cares? The only reason that conservatives are crashing out on Zohran Mamdani is because of that clip from the debate where he said he wasn't going to visit Israel, and everybody knows it. So yeah, Kaguya Stopka says they're mad because their Jews aren't funding him, and here it says NYC Jews, so New York Jews for Zohran. So some Jews apparently seem to be supporting him, but yeah, he's some communist or a democratic socialist of a um, let's say Middle Eastern background. This guy, and I think both like on the right and the left, he has been criticized heavily. I know, no, it's horrible, but it's like I fail to see how he's worse than any your basic Democrat or Republican politician. And of course, he hasn't won the mayorship yet, but he's, I guess, the Democratic candidate. So a Republican who is more friendly to the Uni Party and its masters might be more, might still win. At least that's how I understand the situation. So yeah, and here Red Pill USA points out, why do you think Jews are panicking about the prospect of a certain someone become the mayor of New York City? I'll go first. So this is, from early last year, I believe, and there were some tunnels under New York connected to a synagogue, and there was this dirty mattress there and stuff. Actual incident that happened, not an anti-Semitic trope or anything like that. So yeah, if he is releasing like doesn't take money from APAC and all that stuff, this Sohran guy, maybe he might actually clean up some things. Like no doubt he's supposedly very anti-white person as well, which isn't the greatest. But like if the enemy of my enemy is my friend or something, or at least or rather like it's sort of, and I don't know whether it's like Donald Trump was presented as somebody the establishment hates, but do they really hate him? Like of course, like talking heads on TV hate him. Like I think the vitriol is real, but like is it really is real? But do the real people who really pull the strings, do they consider Trump or this guy a threat? Not sure, maybe, but hopefully. But anyway, it reminds me like in video games, like I always liked it when you could like for because normally in video games usually there's hey, Agent Double Hurts, yeah, I'm early, yeah, today I don't have work, so I'm early and stuff. Welcome. So anyway, I was saying like in video games, I like when to see when different enemies get to you can get them to fight each other, and so you don't have to get your hands dirty, you don't have to you can sort of like be sneaky and make your enemies fight each other. So maybe I'm related to these guys in some sense, but whatever. So yeah, if these democratic socialist democrat Muslims fight against these guys, maybe it's gonna clean up New York, who knows. And what was this? Okay, let's go to the next story. So yeah, Trump kneels for Netanyahu on, well, several issues. At least it seems like it. It's like it is good, I guess, that the World War III didn't break out over Iran yet, but still, Israel is the culprit in the matter, and Trump so far hasn't done anything really to make them pay or to punish Israel for their crimes. And he's acting like Iran is the guilty party. But anyways, let's see what we have here. So Donald Trump said, "It is terrible that they are what they are doing to in Israel to Bibi Netanyahu. He's a war hero, the prime minister who did a fabulous job working with the United States to bring the great success in getting rid of the dangerous nuclear threat in Iran. Importantly, he's right now in the process of negotiating a deal with Hamas which will include getting the hostages back. How is it possible that the Prime Minister of Israel can be forced to sit in a courtroom all day long over nothing? Cigars, Bugs Bunny doll, etc. Okay, I don't know the lore on this one. It is a political witch hunt, very similar to the witch hunt that I was forced to endure. Do you really want to compare yourself to Netanyahu here? Download. Okay, this travesty of justice will interfere with both Iran and Hamas negotiations. In other words, it is insanity doing what the out of control prosecutors are doing to Bibi Netanyahu. The United States of America spends billions of dollars a year, far more than any other nation, protecting and supporting Israel. Well, yeah, like this highlighted here, but it's nice that he admits it. Like, why does the US keep doing this? Okay, he says, we are not going to stand for this. We just had a great victory with Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu at the helm, and this greatly tarnishes our victory. Let Bibi go. He's got a big job to do. So yeah, that doesn't sound good. And yeah, Israeli court rejects request to postpone Netanyahu's corruption trial hearings. So I guess they, accuse him of having embezzled money, and somebody pointed out that in Israel they don't care about what he genocides people. That's whatever. But if he steals from other Israeli Jews, hey bearded, hey, I just noticed your messages in the chats. Welcome. Uh, okay, Iran has sponsored terrorism through the Middle East. Too godless to actually fight their own wars. Maybe, but well, any nation with any I don't know money and influence has sponsored terrorism. Terrorism is basically the old cliche is true. Like one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Because I sympathize with Iran since for one, I've been hearing for at least 20 years. Since the Bush era, how United States and Israel wanted to, start a war, regime change and all that. Um, they wanted to start regime change in Iran, same as Iraq and Libya and all those other countries. And also, Iran is actually they did actually fight against Iran. But what do you mean? What is the strawman argument? And here, President Trump is implicitly threatening to withhold aid from Israel unless Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's corruption trial is dropped and postponed. Uh, hey, I hope this happens. Do you mean the part that when I said that everybody's a terrorist, right? Iran has subjugated their people since 1979. Well, maybe, but I don't know. Like maybe this is whataboutism, but um, like the EU has subjugated Europe since whenever, and this is the kind of shit that happens, and I don't know like how to single out Iran as like somehow worse than the others. EU are okay, just censored. I guess that's some auto censor, but yeah, it's like I just like Iran because they don't like Israel. It's not like I would agree with all of their policies and stuff, but let's say I agree with certain issues with them. But anyways, so yeah, this is again this thing that Trump said about defending Netanyahu and the trial. And here, Germanic friend points out that Trump is basically shining a light on Netanyahu and his crimes and purposely reiterating the Bugs Bunny doll and cigars, bringing more people's attention to it and his court trial. Now more MAGA people are aware of it. So now I don't know if he's being sarcastic or he's actually saying that, meaning that Trump is pretending to defend Netanyahu, but is just trying to bring attention to this. But I guess the fact is that yeah, I hadn't heard about this Bugs Bunny doll stuff. I should look into it later. But and or even the trial, like I don't know if I hadn't heard that it is like I had heard about this these corruption charges with Netanyahu, but I hadn't heard about that the trial is now going on. I think we are at the point where no one is on the side of angels anymore. Yeah, oligarch versus oligarch. Yeah, basically, yes. I don't disagree with that. Yeah, Bibi is corrupt to the bone. Yeah, no arguments there. And okay, Trump says Iran has to submit to the world order or things will get worse for them. Trump is openly forcing countries in the world order. Absolutely insane. So, why would the so called supreme leader, quote unquote, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei of the war torn country of Iran, say so blatantly and foolishly that he won the war with Israel when he knows his statement is a lie? If not so, it's rich coming from an American saying that because it's the last war America won was like World War II, and they won it like in like on the field of battle, but like the end result of America. Well, I guess America had many good decades, but now it's starting to look more like they lost. But anyways, so as a man of great faith, he's not supposed to lie. His country was decimated. His three evil nuclear sites were obliterated. So do nuclear sites now have alignments like D and D, like Dungeons and Dragons, evil and good and neutral ones? Okay, and I knew exactly where he was sheltered and would not let Israel or the U.S. armed forces by the greatest and most powerful in the world terminate his life. Okay, I guess that's good. It's true. I saved him from a very ugly and ignominious death, and he does not have to say thank you, President Trump. In fact, in the final act of the war, I demanded that Israel bring back a very large group of planes which were heading directly to Tehran, looking for a big day, perhaps the final knockout. Tremendous damage would have ensued, and many Iranians would have been killed. It was going to be the biggest attack of the war by far during the last days. That's my son, if you can hear, like my, I guess he's complaining. My wife is taking care of him, but okay. I was working on the possible removal of sanctions and other things, which would have given much better chance to Iran at full and complete recovery. The sanctions are biting, but no, instead I get hit with a statement of anger, hatred, and disgust, and immediately dropped our work on sanction relief and more. Iran has to get back into the world order flow, or things will get worse for them. They are always so angry, hostile, unhappy, and look what it has gotten them burned out, blown up, blah blah blah. Decimated military, yes, yes. Hey, thanks. Have a good stream, man. Believer in free speech. Yeah, follow. Thank you, thank you. Thanks for the follow. And yeah, I believe in free speech too. Generally speaking, of course, there's issues like that. The mafia don says like, "Hey, Jimmy, go whack that guy." Maybe yeah, stuff like that. But anyways, so Trump says Democrats are the ones who leaked intel on Iran strikes. So I guess all of the nuclear sites weren't completely demolished. So Democrats are the ones who leaked the information on the perfect flight to the nuclear sites in Iran. They should be prosecuted. President Trump gave 15-20% of America's THAAD interceptor inventory to Israel in 11 days, totaling over 800 million. So I guess it's these missile car thingies, missile trucks, whatever. Um, yeah, well, why does America keep doing that? I wonder. But here it says, whether if this news is correct, the U.S. has just lifted some oil sanctions of Iran. Washington eased sanctions on Iran, allowing easier oil exports to China. Back-channel reports from U.S. Intel have stated more sanctions will be lifted next week. What is happening? So I wonder if this is true, or is it like very minor sanctions and that Iran can make look like well, we won, like we gained something from United States, like maybe it's more like a symbolic kind of one. I'm not sure yet. And here is U.S. intelligence intercepted classified communications in which Iranian officials admitted the strikes were less devastating than expected. So yeah, like I've heard reports changing all the time, saying either that the they completely obliterated the nuclear program, or like, oh, they weren't really so effective anyway. So who knows? That seems to be changing every day. And And here it says Trump's latest reported offer to Iran would provide 30 billion in funding for Iran's civilian nuclear program, fully covered by the Gulf Arab allies, but would strictly prohibit uranium enrichment. In addition, Iran's 6 billion in frozen assets would be released. A new nuclear facility would be constructed to replace the bombed Fordo site with no enrichment capabilities permitted. Isn't this what Obama did to LMAO? Yeah, I do recall that, yeah, he gave some money to Iran and people were complaining about it. And yeah, and but the 30 billion doesn't sound so much. How much was it? Okay, it's 800 million. 30 billion is more than that. Okay, so maybe like, I guess, billion. Yeah, is like 30 doesn't sound so big, but 30 billion, I guess, is a decent amount of money. Oops, but let's see, what do we have here? All right, Trump is considering demanding that Iran hand over its entire uranium stockpile. Iran rejects resumption of nuclear talks with U.S. Bloomberg. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, of course, like this story is like, this was like 3 days ago, and this was like 4 or 5 days ago. So I don't know. Like, who really knows what the situation between, like, the relationship between US and Iran is right now. And here, Iran must immediately allow me or my colleagues to inspect, but our attempts at contacting the authorities are being ignored. So IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi, so is the, nuke commission or whatever. So do you think this has something to do with the IAEA collaborating with Israel and leaking the names and locations of Iran's nuclear scientists who were assassinated? Most likely. Yes, they shouldn't trust this guy. Atoms for Peace and Development. So yeah, well, when are they gonna investigate Israel's nuclear arsenal, I wonder? Have they done so? Because officially Israel doesn't have nukes, even though everybody knows they have. Unless that's a bluff. Maybe they actually have no nukes and it's all a bluff. You know, I wouldn't put it past them, although, like, if somebody has nukes, I'm pretty sure Israel wants them. Okay, Iran's Grand Ayatollah Makarem Zirashi issues fatwa calling Muslims around the world to kill Trump and Netanyahu, declaring them enemies of God. Uh, I guess diplomatically, this isn't maybe the smartest, at least, outside of the Islamic world, this isn't the smartest decision, but, I guess it's understandable since, Trump did um, order the attacks on Iran and has been defending Israel. And here, Elon Musk pledges to financially support Representative Thomas Massey amid a coordinated primary challenge backed by President Trump and AIPAC. That's based, if it's true. Like, of course, Elon Musk. I don't know, like, how principled he is, but, like, he's the kind of guy who does do occasionally some good stuff. Maybe just because he seems it fits his agenda for a moment, and then he, I don't know, has a falling out with whoever he was just allied with. That seems to be his mo, sort of. But okay, let's move to the next topic. So a killer Jew crucifies priest. So yeah, this is an interesting, like, a serial killer, a would-be serial killer. A 51-year-old man with a Hebrew neck tattoo was arrested after crucifying a Christian pastor in Arizona and placing a crown of thorns on his head. Adam Christopher Schiff admitted to planning the ritualistic killing of 14 Christian leaders across 10 states. Obsessed with the Old Testament and militantly opposed to the New, Schiff says his actions were part of a mission he called Operation First Commandment. He was caught en route to crucify two Catholic priests in Sedona. So yeah, here it doesn't say, but I think it implies very much he's Jewish. He has, Hebrew text. He Likes the Old Testament, not the New, killing Christian pastors and stuff. And he has
Did
some
you kill
internet.
Pastor Bill Shanneman?
Yes.
Why?
There's 13 tribes of Israel. So what I wanted to do was execute and crucify 13 priests and put one of the tribes of Israel in each of their right ears, which I did with this priest. I put the tribe of Benjamin.
So when did this plan come to fruition? You're thinking about this, you want to carry out this hit list?
Yes.
A hit list.
Sure.
14 pastors.
That's right. Around the nation, to surround the nation.
How do you justify that? I mean, if you're killing somebody or multiple people attempted,
Okay, but
how does that work?
It's a commandment to rid Israel of evil. I've done this, I've been in and out of prison, so I know. I run the police probably 100 times in my life.
So you have zero remorse for this
Not
killing.
only do I have zero remorse, I plan on fulfilling what I started. Do I think I'm a monster? No. No. I see myself as more of like a saint. There's a commandment that if somebody's preaching that somebody other than God is God, we are to execute them and rid evil of Israel. So I'm obeying that commandment.
Yeah, I'm wondering because he says Israel, like, does is like, of course, I know it's term from the Bible, which basically means those who follow God. But like, would he consider the state of Israel to be part of the same Israel, or is it in his mind is it separate or same? But yeah, here it says Fight Back podcast says Jewish man becomes possessed and decides to act out the literal letter of his religion. But yeah, it's just one of these. Imagine if the roles were reversed, like not much was talked about this. I think outside of Twitter on that, one day when the story came out. But like, just imagine like it's I don't know, a Christian, a white Christian guy going killing, wants to kill 14 rabbis to crucify them. Like there would be all the fucking global media would be all up in arms talking about, oh no, anti-Semitism, but this is like, oh no, it's some crazy guy. Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Put him in jail and ignore him. So yeah, a man with Hebrew tattoos literally crucified a Christian pastor, and his DHS spends 94 million to combat anti-Semitism instead. Their hatred for you knows no limits. Yeah, like I guess I'd like to get official confirmation on what is his ethnic background and his religious identity. But okay, he's clearly not Christian since he hates the New Testament, that's about Jesus and stuff, so he cannot be a Christian. And he's not an atheist, he's not a Buddhist, he's not a Muslim, so on. So yeah, I guess by process of elimination it would imply he's very much a Jew. So a Jew would be serial killer. Like, hey, maybe he will accidentally get free, or maybe he will, a technicality will, release him from jail or something, and he gets to continue on his mission. Who knows? It's just, yeah. How many Jews have middle name Christopher? That's a good point. Then maybe he has converted, but yeah, it's still not clear whether he's truly a Jew, but certainly like at least like you could call him some sort of heretic or something. But like Judaism is the closest religion, I guess, that uh, he would be associated with. Okay, let's just move on. Don't want to speculate about the guy anymore. Okay, Israel delenda est. Israel has to be destroyed. I already talked about Israel, but there's always going to be more news about Israel and related things, so let's talk about it. So Harvard study finds Israel disappeared, quote unquote, nearly 400,000 Palestinians in Gaza, half of them children. So yeah. This is is it like there were only around 2 million Palestinians before the war started, so that's like almost 25% of the whole population. No, so it says disappeared. So maybe some have even worse fates than being dead, like conceivably. Like maybe they're taking some of the kids to who knows what sort of stuff to do, whatever stuff. So yeah, that's disturbing. But then there's of course this story from UK, I believe. So the Bob Vylan is like wanna be Bob Dylan, but anyway, so he had some concert, and then he sang. At first he sang something like "You want your country back, fuck you," but I don't know, like I guess I would need more context on that. Is it just song lyrics? Perhaps it doesn't mean it as blatantly as people have interpreted it, but probably he does, but maybe not. But then he also said, like, nobody cared when he's saying that to British people that you're not gonna get your country back, fuck you. And I think he's a British citizen, but clearly doesn't identify as English, Scottish, Welsh, whatever. So he, I guess, um, identifies as a invader or something. But anyway, then he said death to the IDF, the Israel Defense League, and then everybody got up in arms and oh my God, that's horrible. How can you say that? And the double standard is everybody's pointed this out, talked about this. So, but it's just just look at it, understand it, analyze. Notice the patterns. Use that's this is the kind of sentiment that first quote unquote woke me up like over 2 decades ago. I started to notice like human history is full of all sorts of atrocities, but usually when the atrocity is committed against a certain group, then it's supposedly much worse. Like simply because the ethnic or religious identity of that group. And I was confused at first, but then I started to understand. Well, perhaps these people hold more power in certain walks of life. But anyways, so man screamed death to IDF, followed by telling the English, "Heard thou you want your country back." Thou, come on, spelling. Heard you want your country back. Shut the fuck up. It's not yours. You have no claim to it. And Ted is only upset about the IDF chant. So Ted here is of course Ted Cruz. So truly sick, thousands of people screaming death to the IDF. This is the base of the Democrat Party. But I thought the guy is British, so why is that? Wasn't it in the UK? Like, yeah, telling the English, so I don't know, I'm confused. I have this expression on my face. And, okay, this is unrelated, but yeah, quit the regime in 12 hours or you and your family are next, Mossad tells Iranian generals. Yeah, this is probably how they do things. I don't know how effective it is, like, how many of these generals would turn tail or even, or perhaps they are mostly threats, but just, to remind you, this is the kind of stuff that happens in the real world, not just with Israel, mind you, like whether it's about, big business or big politics, this is the kind of, games of thrones they play. Of course, much more sophisticated than in the, pseudo medieval era. And Israelis are not handling the ceasefire with Iran well. They don't like being told what to do. So, if Israel theoretically decides to attack America, what should be the opening? White House, Silicon Valley, in interesting bases. So, this Israeli presumably said or asked. So, yeah, simply because America doesn't let them engage in more bloodshed, they just want to attack America. Well, I sort of, in some sense, that this unfortunate action might lead to something good. Like destruction leads to a very rough road, but it also breeds creation. Like then America would really have a mandate to attack Israel instead. Okay, and here, oh yeah, toddler slammed to floor by monster wakes up from coma with no brain damage. So yeah, I have this in the wrong order, but I can show the footage later. So in the airport, like some guy threw a kid on the floor at the airport, like 2-year-old kid or something, and he was in a coma, but apparently he's fine now, so that's good news indeed. And of course, he was a Belarusian Israeli guy who did it, because of course it was. So yeah, the demon who slammed that poor child in the concrete is apparently a citizen of Israel. Anyone surprised? Yeah, citizen of Belarus and Israel. And the kid was Iranian, I think. This is truly evil behavior. Like, there's no way around that. Like, we have the presumably Jewish serial killer, and now this, child slammer. Like, acting like it's a wrestling match or something. What is he? Kane. So yeah, this is the video. Like, he's behaving like it's some wrestling move. Like, and then it's like, and then he's sitting down there on the floor. Like, oh, what is wrong with this? Like, there's something truly wrong with us. Like, they shouldn't be categorized as human. These kind of people. Like, what's wrong with him? Like, even if he has burning hatred, like, I don't know, for normal people, there would be like sympathy towards a small child, and also like simply the fear of getting punished over something, like, your super ego would say like, no, stay away, don't do it. But I don't know what's wrong with this guy. Well, perhaps it is with his ethnic heritage, or cultural heritage, let's put it that way. Oh, we're back to talking about Bob Villain, whatever. Mm-mm. So his legal name, Pascal Robinson Foster. So he called for the death of IDF yesterday. He's coming to the US this fall as part of the Inertia Tour. This anti-Semite must have his visa denied, rescinded. His hate is not welcome here. On it. So yeah, nobody cares about his hatred towards the English. And yeah, sitting US congressman. Yes, boss. Yeah. Yeah. And explosion in apartment building in Tehran, reportedly caused by drone or planted bomb, kills 2 IRGC officers and a nuclear scientist. So yeah, how is this not violating the ceasefire? Yeah, unless it was like, Iranian, I don't know, Iranian versus Iranian battles or something. Most likely it was Israeli if this explosion happened. And here it says Randy Fine, the same guy who was just, yeah, this guy, congressman. Randy Fine is on record pressuring the University of Florida to expel award-winning law student Preston Damsky for criticizing Jews on X. Damsky recently wrote a paper for his constitutional law seminar arguing that the phrase "we the people" in the US Constitution refers uniquely and exclusively to white people. The paper received the class's book award, which was presented by federal judge John L. Badalamenti. Yeah, I'm pretty sure like that's what he meant. It meant not just white people, but like I maybe white men of good moral character or whatever. Like, I don't know if there have been amendments giving, to make we the people more inclusive. I don't know. I'm not an legal expert, especially with U.S. Law, but I'm pretty sure that was their idea of we the people. That it's, white people. It wasn't the I don't know if I can say the lesser N word, but the black people or the red people or anything. It was the white people in America that were the people. That's how they thought. Anyways, Yeah, okay, back to Bob Dylan. The State Department is looking to revoke visas for Bob Dylan, the rap duo that organized the Death to IDF chant at the Glastonbury Music Festival, according to Daily Wire. So I'm just wondering, let's say if he said death to Donald Trump or something, would they do the same? Like, people might complain and criticize him, but would they ban his visa? Or like if he said death to the US military, would they do this? Like, US is supposed to have freedom of speech, but like if you criticize Israel, then nope, forget about it. It's curious, last I checked, Israel is not one of the states that are united, because it's their boss, clearly. No other way around it. Like, it's difficult to make honest observations, to notice the patterns and draw any other conclusions. Like, I it's pretty much impossible. And yeah, his visa has been revoked ahead of the tour later this year. And it's not like I like this guy, but it's like it's just to point out the hypocrisy. And I want people to know about this, because to see who rules over you, who you cannot criticize. It's not just a cliche for no reason. It's because there's clearly, when there's smoke, there's fire and all that shit, and there's fire and smoke here. So Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz announced the cool name Israel Katz sounds like a cartoon show. Anyways, announced the IDF will begin striking any Iranian targets it views as threats going forward, despite Trump's ceasefire. Katz also revealed that Israel tried to kill Ayatollah Khamenei against President Trump's orders. When asked, Katz said, "We don't need American permission for these things." I don't know, like, I really wish Trump would show some spine and just say, screw you to Israel. Like, he can say that, oh, you're my, Israel is America's ally, but still not gonna do this or that or something. Like, I'd really like him to, I don't know, declare war on Israel instead, but I am not holding my breath on that one. And here, Israel planned false flag operation on U.S. soil. Israel was plotting to carry out a false flag operation by detonating explosives on U.S. soil, then blaming Iran to instigate war between both countries. Iran uncovered Israeli plot through information shared by a friendly nation. Upon learning of the potential attack, Iranians sent messages to U.S. officials and prevented the planned explosion from occurring. I'd really not like to know. I like to see U.S. because according to this story, U.S. officials were given the information beforehand. So I wish they would verify whether this is true, because you can question the source here, because it's Iran. Of course, it would be in their interest to lie about Israel in this manner. But of course, I'm 100% willing to believe that Israel has planned and done things like this in the past. So yeah, really would be nice to have some confirmation. And of course, if this is true, is the US gonna do anything about it? So far, like, looking at USS Liberty and some other things, that so far they haven't done anything. Like, when Israel does something against US, they might say like, "Hey, please don't do that," but they don't actually retaliate, which is unfortunate. And here, U.S. Congresswoman Green, Marjorie Taylor Greene, says JFK was assassinated for opposing Israel's nuclear program in 1963. Yeah, so it's pretty based, like, because Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's been, represented as this sort of anti-establishment politician, but for the most part, she hasn't done much as far as I know. She's said things, and okay, this is also saying, but at least this is, taking it a bit further. So yeah, I do appreciate it. There was once a great president that the American people loved. He opposed Israel's nuclear program, and then he was assassinated. Yeah. And then there's this Syrian President al-Shara in talks to hand over Golan Heights to Israeli government after many years of conflicts. Yes, so another sneaky Israel Mossad operation to take over Syria, and now they're just stealing land that they've been fighting over for how who knows how long. That the fall of Syria prompted me to start with the Israel Delenda Est mantra each week because it was too blatant. It was too blatant. I couldn't hold my tongue anymore. And here more horrific footage from the Israeli settler pogrom against the Christian village of Jaber Ramallah in the West Bank, where settlers set houses and vehicles on fire. So they're doing a Holocaust in Gaza and pogroms in the West Bank. The entire village is Christian and they are being attacked by Jews. Yeah, so where's all the American evangelicals who really love Israel? Where are they, are they gonna be protecting their Christian brothers? No? Okay. And here is Senator Katie Boyd Britt saying, I'm deeply grateful to AG Pan Bondi for creating the October 7th Joint Task Force. Okay, I'll be right back. I have to go take care of my. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. So yeah, Pam Bondi is creating a task force to address the rising threat of anti-Semitism. So yeah, that's why she's not releasing the Epstein files clearly because she's quote unquote fighting anti-Semitism. And I don't think Epstein. Well, what was he? His nationality Israeli, but he certainly was Jewish, or is according to some. According to some, he's still alive. But anyways, here's Department of Justice Anti-Semitism Task Force head Leo Terrell says that United States is going to eliminate anti-Semitic conduct and that he's got direct marching orders from President Trump. So once again, why is this one ethnic group singled out that you cannot say bad things about them? Why is not anti-white, anti-black, anti-Asian, anti-Native American, or anti-Buddhist, or anti-Muslim, or anti-Christian sentiment? No, it's always this one group that's gets singled out in this way, like they gets preferential treatments. Like I wonder why. I wonder why. What could be the reason? And Trump admin notifies Congress of plans to provide 510 million in guidance systems to Israel for its 2,000 pound and 500 pound bombs Al Monitor. Okay, so yeah, more money and weapons for Israel, whatever. And the Cyprus government is alarmed by the surge of in Israeli citizens buying property across the country. A Cypriot minister stated, "It feels like we are facing an occupation. Maybe they should just take their assets, nationalize them. Don't let these parasites into your country." I could have included this in the European news section, but I forgot. Whatever. And yeah, here's a good reminder from Simon Godek. Remember this psyop from 4 months ago? So do I. Not one of the influencers in this photo has called for the release of the real Epstein files since. Makes you wonder. Yeah, this Epstein files photo up, social media photo up bullshit. Anyone seen this guy lately? I've seen his comments on Twitter or somebody responding to them and stuff, but and here Candice Owens saying, noticing an increase in anti-Candace and Zucker content. Today we showed you verifiable proof that rabbis in Israel are offering, among other things, Bitcoin to pastors to preach against us on Sunday. So read this email from Rabbi Shlomo Riskin. So I hope this message finds you well. At the center of Jewish Christian understanding and cooperation, we always believe that the strength of our communities lies in how we show up for another, blah, blah, blah. That's why I'm reaching out. Recently, we've been troubled by certain statements made by public voices like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, individuals with large platforms whose words carry weight. While we understand and respect differing political views, yeah, sure, the language they've used lately has crossed the line. It's not just provocative or controversial, in some cases veered into rhetoric that echoes classic anti-Semitic tropes, questioning Jewish loyalty, downplaying. Well, I don't think there should be any questioning Jewish loyalty anymore. Everybody knows it's with Israel and related topics. Anyways, downplaying the Holocaust, framing Jewish communities as global manipulators. It may not always be obvious at first glance, but to those of us who've seeing this kind of speech leads, where this kind of speech leads is unsettling. Yeah, yeah, blah, blah, blah. So we're not asking anyone to take sides politically. This is about something deeper, about spiritual accountability and the moral influence such church leaders like yourself have in shaping how people treat one another. With that in mind, we would be grateful if you would consider speaking briefly on this one of your in your upcoming services. Even few words encouraging awareness, compassion, and caution when engaging with media voices that spread division under the cover of opinion. If you're open to it, willing to share a recording or a summary of our message, we'd like to offer a small gesture of support. A donation of 2,500 in Bitcoin to your congregation. No strings attached, just an expression of thanks and solidarity. This doesn't sound like that much to sell out, to sell your soul for a pastor. I wonder how many actually sold out. So feel free to reply directly, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, assuming that this is genuine, I can't say it surprises me, but it's like, I don't know, it's 2,500. It is not that much. Like, you'd think that priests, they get paid okay. Like, so for somebody like me, that this money would be quite nice. Yeah, I'd say something negative against Candice Owens and Tucker. Like maybe not saying that you should worship Israel, but I could easily say something negative against them for that sort of money. But anyways, let's see. And here, Texas has banned China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea from buying land in their state, which makes sense. But how about Israel? Of course not. But okay, I guess France or Colombia can also buy land in their state so far, according to this at least. But yeah, of course it's not going to be Israel because especially Texas is very. Israel has a stranglehold on the state more than many other states, in my understanding. And Ireland becomes the first European country to pass a law banning imports from Israel. Le Monde. So that's good news. Think, yeah, starve Israel of supplies and money and everything, and of friends. I support that. And here is the kind of books they publish these days are concerning. It is promoting interracial relationships. So this is from Japan, obviously. So in the Chikatetsu de Tonari no Kokujin Suvatara. So if a black person sits next to you in the metro or the subway. And there's something microaggression, blah blah blah. I'm not gonna read all that. It would take too long and it's a bit small. Okay, there's a translation here, but it's okay. It's still too small to really read it. But this is the usual multicultural propaganda, and then I noticed here. Oh yeah, here you can see Yamato Yudaya Yuko Kyokai or something. Anyways, but Yamato Jewish Friendship Association, of course. As some people say every single time. Okay, Americans should know this. Okay, are Americans stupid? Americans should know this. There are around 800 to 900,000 Jewish settlers in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, and none of them work. They live off government funding, free housing, free healthcare, and free everything, and your tax dollars pay for it. Here, somebody asked Rock saying that probably some of them work, but like mostly it seems to be true. Like yeah, so okay, it's not 100% true, but like yeah, I didn't know that they get all this free stuff for stealing Palestinian houses and stuff. And okay, we have spent 800 million to defend Israel in the last 3 weeks. Now DHS is spending on almost 100 million to combat anti-Semitism. If you can't figure out who runs this country, America, you're either a retard or being paid by them too. Basically, yes. Right. So our country makes more sense when you realize everyone in power is either a Jew, a pedophile, a Jewish pedophile, or being blackmailed by Jewish pedophiles or Jewish pedophiles. And sometimes it's even Jewish pedophiles being blackmailed by other Jewish pedophiles. It's an interesting way of putting it. Not saying I completely agree with it, but it's a viewpoint that should be considered. All right. Yeah, then finally we can move on to another topic away from Israel for a while. And I have little Argonaut on my lap right now. Sorry. See if he's gonna say something. Oh no, he wants to start pressing buttons on my computer. Okay. But yeah, Pfizer suspends heart problem study until 2030 supposedly, although this is still a bit questionable whether this is true. But okay, Pfizer has delayed its study on the risk of heart damage in individuals under 21 who received its COVID-19 mRNA vaccine, pushing the investigation back to 2030. So I couldn't really find any confirmation elsewhere online, so I asked Brock. I know you shouldn't just keep asking Grok, but I'm lazy and stuff. So the claim that Pfizer delayed a study of heart damage risk in under 21s from its COVID-19 mRNA vaccine until 2030 appears likely true, based on a Substack article and clinicaltrials.gov updates for study. Blah 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 blah. Originally set for completion in 2025. However, Pfizer's official statements do not confirm this delay, creating uncertainty. The study assesses myocarditis outcomes in 400 participants, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I just wonder, are there any governmental bodies that actually are gonna hold these people responsible, or any, people, like the individual people, certainly, who are unhappy with the pandemics, many aspects of it, but any um, elected officials that are going to hold these people responsible for these pharma companies and people responsible for all this stuff, that the damage that they might have done. I guess you have to, it's still not clear how much damage these various cures and preventative measures caused, but they certainly caused some damage. Let's put it that way. All right, let's see what else do we have here. Okay, Carm. Yes. Carmelo Anthony is indigent. So he is the guy who stabbed uh, Austin Metcalf in the, or at least allegedly, I'd say allegedly, in the tent, killing him whenever it was 6 months ago. And he's been officially granted indigent status, meaning he is now legally recognized as broke and unable to afford legal representation, despite raising over $500,000 in dollars in donations. So yeah, this guy. So he stabs the guy, and then he asks for donations, and people, of course, donate because oh, poor black man, and or black teenager. I think he's 17 or at least was at the time. And then they give him lots of money for the legal battles, and he like rents a big mansion and buys a car or something like that, and now he's already spent the money. So yeah, oh, it was this April that this happened. Okay, yeah. Moshi Moshi Moan here is saying Carmelo Anthony raised $500,000, blew it on cars and renting a mansion, and now has filed for a public defender due to being broke. Financially irresponsible black person. First time I've ever heard of that. Okay, so yeah. But hey, maybe Carmelo Anthony actually, maybe he's smart because he knows that there's no way he's gonna get out of the charges. So maybe he wanted to live like a king for the past few months before he has to go to jail, and maybe that's why he spent all the money. Maybe there's a reason, point behind it, but of course I wonder if he also spent the money of his family, like his parents and stuff. So I don't know, but at least I can see some degree of logic in this, even though it is very irresponsible and stuff, and he's if he really is a murderer, I don't have much sympathy, but like I do think the way of handling it is very interesting and very postmodern. You could say. You could say. All right, then let's go to gaming and entertainment news. We don't have that many this week, but we have some, so let's have a look. So this is Pirate Software's game. He's the guy. Everybody's probably heard about him. He's the anti stop killing games guy, and of course I support Ross Scott and his Stop Killing Games initiative. I saw today even PewDiePie saying giving his support to the movement, so that's very good. So I think everybody who hears who Pirate Software is really hates him. So maybe he's in the end he's gonna be doing more good to the movement, even though he opposes it. And I'm not gonna go into all of that because plenty of other people have talked about it. But I first heard about the guy when he was like, he was streaming World of Warcraft. I think they were playing in hard mode or something. Like if you die in World of Warcraft, you'll die in real life. And then he sort of just screwed over his friends and ran away and left them to die or something. Then he still is pretending like he did nothing wrong. But now there's this even more, I don't know, annoying story that he seems to hate Stop Killing Games. But anyways, and then he's has his this game Hardbound, and that as somebody saying that I reviewed Pirate Software's Always Online DRM in his single player game, so single player game Always on DRM, and got banned from his Steam hub. I broke down whether that approach was really necessary or effective, especially in the context of Stop Killing Games discussion. where he heavily criticized Ross and his movement. The current implementation means that if Steam ever changes its API or discontinues certain services, the single player only game could become completely unplayable. That's a serious concern, especially when the DRM doesn't offer meaningful protection in the first place. I focused entirely on the technical aspect, no cracking, no tools, and nothing that could be used for malicious purposes. The review is a breakdown of how the system is designed and where it may fall short for a security and integrity perspective. My analysis was done through the lens of DIN, ISO, IAC, blah 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 compliance standards, where publicly sharing findings like this is normal. No needed, especially blah blah transparency. Yeah. So, anyways, and then he was banned from, allegedly banned from the, I guess, his review is, it says locked here, and maybe he's also banned from the forum related to the game. So yeah, it's clearly in Finland we call it oma lehmä ojassa, means like your own cow is in the ditch. So it's basically like you pretend like you're doing something for the common good, like Pirate Software is opposing stop killing games, but he's doing it because he has a game that would get killed if Roscott doesn't win his like if his movement doesn't win basically. But hey, maybe this game deserves to die. I don't know. Maybe the game isn't bad. I don't know, but certainly wouldn't buy it with this DRM or wouldn't want to support Pirate Software. And here Pirate Software says, if you create an environment that puts heavy restrictions or roadblocks on making online-only games, then you will get less online-only games and more single-player couch co-op games. This isn't hard to understand. I don't disagree with it. However, I say that's a good thing. Like the last couple of years, I played like two online multiplayer games probably. There might be more that I forget, but like I've streamed, was it Guards sometime last year, a long time ago, but I that might be the only multiplayer game I've streamed. And just I sometimes play games outside of streaming as well, but yeah, I prefer single player games that don't need online connection for obvious reasons. So yeah, Russ Scott is truly, he should be known as the saint of gaming, whether he succeeds in his endeavors or not. Like 50 years from now, he should be known as a saint. And okay, here is permanent Switch 2 console ban has apparently stranded Twink Link in Nintendo support hell. So this is a weird and funny story. So be careful with Switch 2 usernames. I let everyone in my family use my Nintendo Switch 2 system, and as a result, my sister uses it. Her username was recently changed to Twink Link and console ban. I'm fully prevented from accessing any Nintendo services at all on the system. I'm unable to contact support as they're too busy with complaints right now, but this has been incredibly stressful. We were also excited to be playing Breath of the Wild again. Final edit, permanent system bans cannot be revoked by Nintendo at all. Why? I was told to return the system and use the latest save data cloud backups. I feel kind of trashy doing that because GameStop will inevitably sell it to another customer and the code is no longer in the box. So yeah, permanent Switch to console ban apparently stranded Twink Link in Nintendo Super Hell. The guy over the phone was laughing at the username. So yeah, if this is true, like if everything is true, it's like how fucking retarded they get. Like first of all, if it's just like the private use, what does it matter? Like if they rename their account like a Holocaust Hitler 88 or whatever is the most offensive thing you can think of. Like if it's for private use, it shouldn't be none of their business. But even if like if this Twink Link is somehow offensive, then why won't they just prevent you from changing into that name in the first place? Like why allow the change and then ban the whole thing. Like, doesn't make any fucking sense. This is theft, more or less. Like, at least, the guy is supposedly being able to change his Switch to another one at the store, but it's like, what the fuck are they thinking, like, at Nintendo? Like, it seems like the good employees are leaving Nintendo and there's some complete retards. Like, if that's how they're doing things, it seems so unnecessarily complicated. So, like, bureaucratic. It's like Nintendo is trying to become the government of Japan or something. And here, Switch 2's super sluggish LCD screen is 10 times slower than a typical gaming monitor and 100 times slower than OLED panel, according to independent testing. Yeah, I already talked about this last week a bit. Like, I showed some video clip, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I was told that Switch 2 is gonna be. And yeah, I think in last week's video it said that it's even slower than the old Switch 1, which is, crazy because I was told that Switch 2 is basically just Switch but better in each every respect, but I guess it's not. So it's really like sounds like, Nintendo has been eaten from the inside by some parasite and now it's just wearing the flesh of Nintendo as a, costume, but in inside it's rotting and it's gonna be, with each passing year and month, it's gonna rot even further. And Square Enix will make more turn-based games and recognizes success of Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Like, this is good. Oh, my chair almost killed me. uh, I'll be right back. All right, I returned. Had to go get some milk formula for my kid, but anyways, like, this is good news, but it also pisses me off on a fundamental level because I like Square. Well, yeah, I like Squaresoft back in the 90s, one of my favorite gaming companies, but I like turn-based games, turn-based RPGs and strategy and stuff like that. And so that's good news, but I hate um, the tendency, like, of these, multinational corporations just to follow trends. Like, it's like they have no identity, no principles of their own, and whatever seems popular, that's what they do. And like, they should have had the common sense to understand that people like turn-based games. And well, Square Enix, they did at least release the Octopath Traveler 1 and 2, and I guess they've sold okay. So they're not like disasters. So, but still, like, the whole mindset is so wrong, and that's why Square Enix has been suffering for the past years. And here Grimes points out that Square needs to fire their DEI department first, or none of this matters, and that's certainly true. Yeah, the ethics department or whatever it's called. And yeah, and there's interesting news. Commodore is official, so Commodore has been bought. The only old computers, like Commodore 64 was one of the biggest computers in the 80s, and then Amiga was late 80s, early 90s. I had both Commodore 64 and the Amiga 500, even Amiga CD32. So I'm certainly like this nostalgia affects me. But anyways, its official Perifractics mission to buy Commodore computers succeeded. Mind blowing, after decades in limbo, Commodore has a new owner. I personally tried for years without success to buy Commodore, or at least convince wealthy businessmen to buy it, but I failed every time, so I'm thrilled somebody finally did it. Thank you, Perifractic and team. This is the best news I could have possibly got today. Commodore lives again. Yeah, Commodore has a new owner. So, who are the new Commodore computer team? Christian, aka Perifractic, has assembled an impressive team to ensure Commodore receives full push it needs to survive and thrive in the 21st century. Here's the team he announced on YouTube. So, Christian Perifractic, CEO, Simpson, CEO of Commodore, leading the ambitious initiative to acquire Revive Commodore brand, leveraging his YouTube platform and passion for retro computing to rally a global community. So that there's also these people. Some of them have explanations. Some are just Tim Morgan, PR officer. So yeah, I don't know. Let's see what's here. So that's an impressive lineup of Commodore royalty and enthusiasts. The key to any successful venture is a strong team, and Perry has undoubtedly assembled just that. He promises Commodore won't adopt a draconian approach like Nintendo with use of its name, and nor will it overly lenient. Will it be overly lenient with licensing? This balanced strategy aims to protect the brand's value while fostering growth and innovation. This is exciting news for everyone. Commodore is alive again, and I anticipate a new release announcement as early as next week, given the momentum building around this revival. One of Perry's Christian's closing comments was, "It's easier to tear things down than to build things up." A profound truth that underscores the effort here. Commodore is back, and we should all celebrate this remarkable revival. So personally, I wonder what it actually means. Like, are they gonna just re-release the old computers from like 30, 40 years ago that you can, or like make some new versions that you can, uh, you know, buy them with a USB drive and then install ROMs and stuff, or what? Or are they gonna be like make a new Amiga operating system that is also somehow backwards compatible with the old games and make like new games, or is it like basically a PC that also is somehow has some Amiga or Commodore 64 aspects? Like I have no idea how it's gonna work, but I just hope they won't just parade the corpse of Commodore or like turn Commodore into some rainbow pride parade or something. But I am, sort of excited, sort of worried, like to see what it actually becomes, or like even if they have good intentions and good ideas, maybe it's just gonna end up failing, and in a year it's gonna sell it again or go bankrupt. I don't know, but I will be, following this story because it was, I have many nostalgic memories with Commodore 64 and Amiga 500. And the last story of the week is live action Akira is cancelled. Yay! So Taika Waititi's live action Akira film is no longer happening. Warner Bros. Has lost the rights. That's good news. They would have, of course, raped and mutilated it. It is one of the most classic and iconic anime movies out there. So it's good that they're not gonna make a remake, especially live action. Like no, like if they want to make Akira, they should make a full anime because the manga is much longer because the movie is just hour and a half or whatever. It doesn't have the whole story. So if they want to make Akira, they should take the whole manga and stuff. But I don't know if there's some rights issues with it or what exactly it is. But that would be the way I would do it if I wanted to make some sort of new Akira stuff. But I guess that's it for this week. I don't know. I hope something comes from Rand Paul's, like panel with Fauci. I hope he, like, we get something more than just some, quotes that Fauci saying something that is, sneaky and underhanded, but nothing comes of it. I really hope, there's some concrete results from the hearing and stuff. But I'm not holding my breath, and I really hope that Donald Trump stops being the lapdog of Israel. But with that, I'm Adventure Argonaut. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.